Marvelous Friday. It is January 5th. It's my first show for the beginning of the new year, 2024. And Kevin, it's great to have you on with me.
It's great being on. And did I do a show on Monday? I can't remember now. No,
No,
because it
you
was
did
New
a
Year's.
rerun.
It was New Year's.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think you did a best of on
I think I did the
Tuesday
best
or
of. So David and I did a show on Tuesday. That's what we did. Yeah.
okay.
So
Yeah.
so it's my second show, but Happy New Year to you.
Yes, Happy New Year. Wow, 2024. I think we got to buckle up. It's going to be a wild ride this election season.
I agree. Although I felt an air of optimism, just because of some of the stuff I've seen going on in Portland that's starting to go in the right direction. And if Portland can actually turn its act around, we can fix anything. I mean, really, you know, even though there's big problems.
Yeah, I'm optimistic about it, but I won't hold my breath until we see the results.
No, that's right. No, we got to wait. There's going to be a lot of labor pains before the baby shows up here. So that's the best way to do
Right.
it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
and I actually do believe that I think that we're going to be successful this fall, but I think it's going to be a roller coaster ride. That's what I believe. Which
Yeah.
a roller coaster ride means that there's a lot of times it's going to feel like we don't know what's going to happen. That's what it's going to feel like.
Yeah. Well, as all of us, I'm sure, have discussed on Captive Audience, is how much pain do Oregonians have to go through,
Yeah.
right, in order to right this ship? And I don't know.
Well, it starts by people stopping believing the lies and the propaganda because
Yeah.
they're fed a constant stream of it. That's why we do this show, in part because we know that what people are getting is they're being spoon fed just poison. It's literally the intellectual media generated equivalent of fentanyl. And they've created a dependent class, a bunch of people who actually think that the information that they're receiving is truthful and they have to keep receiving it, even though if they stopped and engaged their brains for a minute, they realize that when they're being told, like the story that we were just discussing before we went on the air about President Trump being influenced by foreign money, blah, 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 that it's just garbage. It's literally somebody just manufacturing BS, sticking in an article and saying, let's see if this works.
Yeah. And, the left are very good at that. They actually are very, very good at accusing somebody of one thing, of what they're actually doing, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Absolutely, of what they're doing. And so, speaking of Trump, we can just lead off with that because we've got a few things on Trump. This him being accused of getting money while he's in office. My gosh, the guy's got assets. He's got a business,
Mm-hmm.
and his children are a few of them are running it. He had stepped down as the head of the Trump organization, as we all know. But of course, the left and the lying media are going to try to make it something that it isn't. And, they're trying, there's a lot going on. We have the Epstein files coming out. There's, more and more lawsuits. There's the investigation.
Look over there.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's look over there. We got to throw some shiny things out. Somebody even shared with me a video of, oh my God, Miami was invaded by aliens. And I was like, talk about a big look over there. What the hell was that?
Well, and then Texas is being invaded by some 215,000 illegal aliens, but they don't get near as upset about that. So
no, they don't. And I'll tell you, that is disgusting.
Yeah.
It is disgusting, and it's all by design. So, we have to keep, as you said, keep speaking the truth. And Trump is getting slammed. He's getting slammed. Another way he's getting slammed. I did just post about a New York Times, so today or yesterday, actually, Alicia James, no, it was today. She had said, we're going to seek an additional $120 million for Trump in the fake civil trial, that there is nobody that got injured.
Yeah, there's no one
But
harmed. And by the
yes,
way,
nobody got harmed.
not only is there no one harmed, but Trump's lawyers pointed out in response to this whole thing that there's also nobody that's testified in court saying to any there's not a single witness from any bank or anywhere else that has testified to the assertion that there were material misstatements that changed the pricing of any of the loans that were made. So they actually don't have any witnesses either. So it's one thing. It's one thing when you have specious charges, and then you attach these massive numbers to it, but you don't have anyone that's harmed, and you don't have any witnesses saying that corroborating any of this.
No, they don't. In fact, they've had testimony to the exact opposite. They've had testimony that has bolstered Trump and what his documents purport. So now Letitia James, that New York Attorney General, is seeking over $370 million from President Trump and his co-defendants, and to bar him from doing business in the state. It's amazing because they're trying to force him to sell properties that he owns. And, the banks don't want that happening. There's nobody wants it, but, New York wants to try to force them. This should be alarming to everybody in America, that this is the lawfare of what is going on. And frankly, it's unlawful. Do I think that he'll get convicted of this? Yes, actually, I do. And I think it's going to have to go to the Supreme Court of the United States to get something like this overturned. We're in unprecedented type of lawsuit and lawfare. And who was the, help me out here, Kevin, the lawyer who ended up saying, was it,
Michael
I want to
Cohen?
say Comer, but Cohen ends up saying, I used artificial intelligence to come up, frankly, with BS, charges and whatnot, or case law, BS case law. And so we cannot be surprised by any of this, but we have to fight it at every chance and talk about it, and call out the lies of what it is. But this is seriously damaging to our nation because it's not equal justice. It's not really justice at all.
It's a weaponized justice system, because Letitia James is the one who ran for attorney general in New York, a state, by the way, where there's skyrocketing crime, lawlessness, people not being prosecuted. New York City's a mess. It's not safe at many times a day in a city that was once the safest large city in the world. And she ran saying she was going to get Trump. That was her campaign.
Yeah.
And you're not supposed to do that in a justice. Our system is supposed to be, you investigate crimes and then you go look for people that might be implicated in those crimes, who are presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, or in this case, preponderance of the evidence if it's a civil suit, in front of a jury of their peers, right? Although some are bench trials and stuff like that. But anyway, we're supposed to investigate a crime and then find out who is guilty of breaking the law in perpetrating that crime. What Letitia James did is she said, I'm not looking for a crime. I'm not looking for who's guilty of a crime. I'm looking for a person. I'm looking for crimes to associate with a person. I've targeted a person. You're not supposed to say, I've got a person, let's go find some crimes. That's not an
Right.
investigation under our system. You don't get to say, I don't like that person, therefore that qualifies as probable cause for me to investigate them. But that's what's happened. And that's what a weaponized justice system is. And if we have that, and it can be done to anybody as powerful as President Trump, then it can be done to anybody. We're just ink spots. And as he said so many times, the reason why they're coming after me is because they're really after you, and I'm standing in the way. So true.
It is so true because, none of us, I certainly don't have the money that it would take to fight something like this, a lawsuit that there truly is no wrongdoing at all. And so this is a damn big deal, quite frankly, in America these days. Another way that he is being attacked, and I just posted another story, is through January 6 lawsuits. So today, from the Epoch Times, a judge dismisses most counts against Trump in the Brian Sicknick January 6 lawsuit. And so that's very good news. And now the case that is still in play, though, is the survivors. And so they can sue for still a wrongful death or damages for survivors, actually. So it's a survival act claim, and the judge allowed the claim to proceed. The claim of conspiracy to violate civil rights, actually. That's what it is. And so the Survival Act allows the estate of a deceased person to take a course of legal action that the deceased person might have taken if they were alive. So that's what is, and it's against Trump and two other people. And so that's more lawfare going on. And we just have to know that he's getting attacked from so many areas by many of, I believe, the same forces, like what is that, Project 65 or something like that. Yeah. And it's
the 1619 project is another one, but that's a different thing.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens there. It's interesting in reading this article that, wait a minute, he actually, Sicknick, he died of a heart attack.
A stroke.
He
died of a stroke.
A stroke. There we go. A stroke. He didn't die from getting bashed in the head with a fire extinguisher, as was purported all over the news. But he also was on duty. So it could be argued that this was kind of led to because of being at work, a work-related type of death. I don't know. I don't know how it'll play out. It's sad that anybody passed away from January 6th. None of that had to happen, since it had been very, very peaceful from all the video that I have seen, until rubber bullets and tear gas and things like that were shot from overhead.
Well, the only person who died was shot by a Capitol Police officer, and the person was unarmed. It is interesting. Part of this stuff was dismissed due to lack of standing, because she was not Officer Sicknick's spouse. But also, this is the big problem. The thing that you can drive a Mack truck through is the cause and effect doesn't exist. Officer Sicknick died, and there is absolutely no connection by the coroner or any competent authority between what happened to him with the stroke, and which is took place after January 6th, and the events of January 6th. So, otherwise, if somebody just drops dead down the street, and let's say I'm related to that person, I just sue you, Sonny, because I think you caused, some trauma to them because you said something.
You watched an episode of Captive Audience and 2 days later fell over dead.
That's right.
And we caused it, right?
I'm gonna sue you for $370 million or something. You know, it's just like you can just do anything. Then the law,
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
matter. It's
Doesn't
like,
make
whatever the law, you can just make it up. And that's what we're facing here. And they're literally trying everything. I just think that the President Trump, I would like to be in the room when sometimes they bring these things to him to hear what he really says about him. I know that he lets lawyers do the talking and all of this stuff, but he must have some choice words that would be really interesting to hear when someone brings these charges and cases against him. And a lot of it is just using the justice system to attack him when there's no basis for these things at all. They just know that there's the way the justice system works is they make you spend money, they bankrupt you, they threaten your family, they threaten everybody you know, they force them to all get lawyers, all to spend money. They drag your name through the mud. They do it in the middle of a political campaign. They make you show up for court when you should be out campaigning. They do all kinds of things. And I think he's just like, I'm going to keep going. And I know that some people don't like him.
Thank God.
Some people don't like him. Some people don't even agree with him on certain issues. But you would think at this point that the one thing everybody should be able to get to the same page on is that what they're doing to him is wrong. And it can be done to anybody. And it's this weaponization of the justice system. You know, if you don't like him, don't vote for him. If you disagree with him, don't vote for him. If you actually are mentally ill enough to think that Biden is a better, more competent president, then vote for him. But this stuff isn't this isn't our system of elections. This isn't, and this isn't our justice system either. It's a mutation of the justice system to attack somebody politically in order to get control of part of the government of the country. And frankly, I think it's treason. So.
Well, yes, you're right. And so here I just posted another story about Trump, and this is, truthfully, I believe election interference, but the Supreme Court agrees to hear Trump's appeal of the decision removing him from the Colorado ballot. And a state just deciding that we're not going to have this person be on the ballot, but not just deciding that. The Colorado Supreme Court ruled on December 19th that Trump is ineligible to be on the state's primary ballot under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. The Supreme Court set oral arguments for Trump's appeal for February 8th of this year. And, so they took him off, stating that he has engaged in insurrection. He's never been charged. He's never been convicted. So they've just arbitrarily, we're going to make this decision for everybody in Colorado.
And they're saying, and they're claiming that they're reading the Constitution says that they don't have to have any basis for this other than their personal belief. That they actually cited evidence that in their court case from 2016, making a speech during his campaign in 2016. They cited evidence that couldn't be less relevant to the issue that they're putting forward here. They ignore exculpatory evidence, such as when he made a speech and said, please make your voices heard peacefully and patriotically. He said that. And they're just ignoring all that because they're really a political body. The state Supreme Court in Colorado is a political body. And, thank the Lord that the Supreme Court is actually there to address and settle this. Now, I don't know what their decision is going to be because it should just be based on the Constitution and the law. I may not like their decision, but I want it to be based on the Constitution and the law and not the arbitrary decision or judgment or feelings of a bunch of Democrat-appointed state Supreme Court justices in Colorado. Because I think I've been to a number of events where there's people that are even Republicans. They don't like Trump. But they're like, this is wrong. This mustn't happen. I've heard
Yeah.
Democrats actually say, if this happens, it'll tear the country apart. David Axelrod, who's the
Yeah.
advisor to President Obama, famously said, if this is done, it'll tear the country apart. And you know that if this stands, there are states that'll throw Biden's butt right off the ballot too. And there's 18 arbitrary reasons that you can come up with, and frankly, some that aren't so arbitrary. I think that what he's doing with the southern border amounts to a high crime and misdemeanor, and I think it actually might result in Alejandro Mayorkas, the Department of Homeland Security Secretary, being impeached. I think he's going to be impeached. I talked to somebody
I did too.
who actually has very direct, great knowledge of what's happening in the U.S. Congress. I'll just leave it at that. And they said that this one is an easy impeachment. It's a no-brainer. And that I believe that. Actually, no.
I do too.
And by the way, I think Mayorkas is starting to believe that he's going to face that too. Will he be convicted in the Senate? Probably not. But you know what? They actually have. This is one thing about impeachments. This is how powerful it is. Not only can you not stop an impeachment inquiry from getting the information it needs, there's literally almost nothing you can cite that'll stop the impeachment inquiry from requiring a piece of information or requiring somebody to testify in front of Congress in an impeachment inquiry. You can claim the fifth, you still have constitutional rights, but even that has some limits and conditions, and negotiations can take place with the people that come forward and testify. However, if they do vote to impeach Mayorkas, under Senate rules, just like happened with President Trump, under Senate rules, the Senate must stop all other business of the Senate and go into a special session that is a jury, effectively, where 100 senators silently sit and hear House impeachment managers, as well as people the lawyers on behalf of Mayorkas, testify and present evidence in front of the Senate, and the Senate must stop all other business and attend to that, and then and complete their business and come to a vote. And it's presided over by the U.S. Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts. I think that there is a chance that some Democrats may say, you know what, actually, yeah, let's convict. And then I think, well, Mayorkas will just resign, is what he'll do before that can happen.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, it's a crime. We have the laws on the books to not allow this, and we are absolutely being invaded by illegals coming across our border that do not share our values. That in so many ways, they're not coming to make America better at all. They're coming with their handouts, and I think even other. I think we've got sleeper cells in our nation, unfortunately, and so that we therefore need to all be awake to this. And under Trump, I saw a statistic the other day. I wish I had it right here in front of me, but it was something like in a year, maybe it wasn't a year. It was in a determined amount of time. There was like 79,000 illegals came across the border versus 250,000 in the same, time period under Biden right now. And we had much better, a lot more people were getting sent back. And, obviously, and to your point of there's people that don't like Trump, I get that. But you cannot argue with the results of his presidency, what he did for America, because he wasn't there to enrich himself or his family. He chose to run for office to make America better, let's make our country, let's look after us instead of shipping all of our jobs overseas that has been going on for decades. Let's make America better. And our economy was better. Our jobs were better. That things were so much better. I went to the grocery store yesterday, and got $300 worth of groceries and went, wow. There was no meat, no eggs. There was some dairy, but just some supplies that I needed to stock up on. And this are tough times in America.
Yeah.
Tough times.
And
The
this is,
price of
and
our
by the way,
groceries.
solving the problems you just described, that's what we should be focused on. Usually it's the government that's in the way or making it worse when you really dig into it. But I'm open to whatever, information we can obtain and focus on solving those problems. But just like President Trump is standing in the way of them coming after you and me, uh,
Mhm.
there are people who are literally standing in the way of solving these problems in DC. And sometimes they're actually responsible for creating these problems. And we know the border is one of them. And the fentanyl crisis that's resulting from it, that's leading to the homelessness crisis, all these like dominoes have fallen. And now we have to actually hold someone accountable for it, because that's the only way you can get back to doing the right thing, is actually call out the wrong thing and say, okay, the people who did this, you're gone.
Yeah.
All right. And the people who are going to actually take seriously fixing this, here's your chance. And we're going to get there, I believe. But I think it's going to take,
We
like
are
you
going to
said,
get there. And in fact, I'm going to put a story in that talks just about this. One is, and it is federal regulations cost the U.S. economy $3 trillion in 2022. And, under President Trump's administration, he had said, for every new law that you want, you must cut two. And I believe he had said, I remember him saying at one point, it's like instead of two, they're cutting 7 or 9 regulations for every new regulation, not every new law, but every new regulation.
yeah.
He said, you got to cut 2. And so the regulations were getting cut. That is actually helps private enterprise. We are a capitalism society. There's nothing wrong with capitalism. And so it helped to boost our economy. And in this story about 3 trillion regulation costing the US economy 3 trillion in 2022, when you get looking into this, it is amazing that, so for example, this study was done by NAM, which is the National Association of Manufacturers. And they released this study titled The Cost of Federal Regulations. And in this, it says that the increase in aggregate regulatory compliance costs since 2012. So 2012, it was $465 billion. No, I'm sorry. This increase was $465 billion in 2022. The average annual compliance cost for each American firm was $277,000. For manufacturers, the average per employee regulatory cost was $29,100. So for every employee, it's costing you $29,100 a year for having that employee to do business here in America. And companies that have under 50 employees, it was $50,100 per employee, the cost of doing business in the United States. And we talk a lot about Oregon and the high cost of doing business here in Oregon. The companies that have to pay gross receipts tax before they've even sent, they're doing over $1 million in business here in Oregon. and they have to pay gross receipts tax. That's before they've paid their employers or employees. That's before any of their expenses, their rent and insurances and all
Because
of
it's a
that.
tax whether you made profit or not.
Yes, it is. This is the stuff that puts businesses out of business. And so to look at that, that it is across the United States, federal regulations, $3 trillion. And in fact, here in Umatilla County, I'm going to go back about 10 years ago. It was decided, roughly about 10 years ago, it was decided to shutter the Boardman coal plant. And the Boardman coal plant was state of the art. But new regulations were put on by the state of Oregon. And they said, you know what? We just can't comply with that. It's not cost effective. And yet that coal plant was burning so clean, and it was a reliable source of energy here. And that's just one. Everybody could speak to the regulations, what's been put on the timber industry. You name it. The regulations are what's
Well, they're
killing.
takings. They're takings. And yet, because they can get around actually the takings clause and all of the stuff that goes with it in the Constitution, they can essentially seize or impose costs. It's like a tax that the government doesn't have to account for because it's regulatory power that they've been granted by Congress that now they're using and abusing. And we're going to expose this as we continue to go forward, because when you said about, well, we'd sure like to have the policies that President Trump had in place. Wouldn't you like to have his economy?
Oh
2019.
yeah.
Wouldn't you like to have the peaceful, safe world that wasn't with wars breaking out everywhere and people testing the United States constantly to see if we were serious? That deterrence is broken down. That's a Pandora's box now. It'd be great to have the peaceful, safe. We'd like to have the public safety of 4 years ago. We'd like to have the controlled and improving border of 4 years ago with a wall that was going up. We would actually like to have the regulatory environment that we had achieved by 2019, where you could actually find people to work for you because the labor market we weren't paying people to sit at home and do nothing.
Yeah. There is going to be, and I think their Supreme Court is going to be hearing some cases regarding the regulatory authority in the United States. And I look forward to the outcomes of that, because I think they're going to trim a few things and say, you're just overstepping your boundaries,
Yeah.
as they've done. Just like here in Oregon, the Oregon Supreme Court said to the Brown administration that you overstepped your boundaries of applying the green energy bills to the state of Oregon.
Yeah.
That were just executive orders. And so we're going to hear
Is that the
those
Chevron
things.
decision review? I think they're reviewing in part the Chevron decision. Yeah, and that
Yeah,
was so it's going to be a really important shift to see if the nation changes course in terms of its jurisprudence and gets back to more limited government.
yeah, it does. So we're going to switch.
Can I mention one story that I saw that's connected with this?
Yeah.
They
Yes.
also discovered that the federal government has found a way to literally waste outright by making through improper payments $236 billion. Now, to give you an idea, $236 billion wasted essentially through fraud, abuse, mismanagement. That's more than we spend on about everything in the budget except for defense, interest on the debt, Social Security, and Medicare. 236 billion. That's more than we spend on roadways, and yet we're just wasting it. So there's regulations, there's waste, fraud, and abuse, and an unaccountable government. And what do we have to use this election for? Accountability.
Absolutely. When the Pentagon can't account for I don't know, what was it, $50 billion, and it was a boatload of money that the Pentagon cannot account for. We have so much, and this is not the first time we've had this. This is a continuing. This has gone on and gone on and gone on, and there is a day of reckoning coming, and it's going to be painful for America, I think.
Well,
We do have to have
the
cuts.
pain could be that because we've wasted money, the day that we didn't really end up spending that money more wisely so that we had a stockpile of weapons when we actually have to go to war, instead of shipping them all off to Ukraine and having none, Tomahawk missiles, Stinger missiles, 155 millimeter artillery shells. What are we going to fight a war with?
Everything we left in Afghanistan.
Yeah. And you know what? Your enemies know when you run out of this stuff. That's when they do stuff that you're like, oh, I never thought we'd be at war. Well, this is how you do it. And then you know what? Wars are really expensive. If you thought it was expensive to waste money, just wait till you actually have to spend money you don't have to win a war that you can't afford to lose. These are costs, like you said, these could be tough lessons for our country.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, so we're going to shift a little bit to, I think, even more talking about, economy here in America. Over in China, there is, and we've talked about this here before on Captive Audience, but this is even more so. Massive Chinese wealth management firm files for bankruptcy amid real estate crisis. Now, this is the top wealth manager, Yongzi Enterprise Group, and I'm sure I'll butcher the Chinese names because that's certainly it's not my specialty.
No.
But it declared bankruptcy today after failing to pay its debt due to heavy investment in the country's struggling real estate market. Now, they told investors in November of last year that it had at least 31 with a B, billion, more in liabilities than in assets. Previously, they had about 108 billion in assets at the end of 2022. Now, this is really bad. China's economy is collapsing, but this is the third. This is the top one, and it's the third of their real estate holdings that have filed bankruptcy. And I remember reading a story about one of them was Evergrande. And they actually filed in the United States because they were filing bankruptcy on companies in the United States that were supplying them goods for all this building that they were doing, right? So we were actually supplying them some things, what I don't know. And so this also can cause a domino effect, not a trickle effect, a domino effect. I don't know, you're a business guy, Kevin. This is not good at all for China.
Well, and technically their entire property sector, which is about a third of their economy, is in default. Their banking system is actually technically insolvent, but what the government's been doing is pumping their banking system with cash, with printed money, in effect, in order to make sure that those banks stay afloat so that the property sector doesn't take them down. But it's not fixing the real problem, which is that a lot of the stuff that they built in China, if you buy something, if you take out a loan, and you pay for what you want to have, and then they build it. That's how they do it. So a bunch of people put money into this stuff, and it turns out that a lot of the places that they expected one day to retire to are unlivable. They're skyscrapers without internal plumbing and elevators. They are just unlivable ghost cities. And now no one wants to put their money into this stuff anymore. And that's how Ponzi schemes collapse. So their entire property sector is one giant Ponzi scheme that only worked as long as new money kept coming in to buy more, to pay for more construction, which in turn convinced people that they should go and invest and buy these things. And now it's collapsing because no one's dumb enough to go and put their money into it anymore. So the Chinese government is
Yeah,
trying to
let's
keep all this propped up, but you can't run the second largest economy in the world that way. And by the way, their manufacturing sector is also in the toilet because they're seeing people shift their production sourcing away from China to other countries that are friendlier and more reliable. And so when they came back from COVID, they also did. So that's the other third of their economy. So they don't really,
yeah.
and their domestic consumption market is not very good. They don't have a consumer economy like we do. So really the Chinese economy is just like it is hollow and it's insolvent and it's not transparent. So I don't know what's going to happen, but this is sort of as bad as this sounds, this story, it's actually just like a symptom, a really bad symptom of a severe illness that their economy has.
So you're right. And so companies around 40% responsible for about 40% of the Chinese homes have defaulted on their debt since 2021. So this has been a domino effect, okay, for the last couple of years. And Chinese foreign investors fled the market in 2023, ending in October, pulling $31 billion in stocks and bonds from the Chinese financial system. It's the worst outflow since 2001. And the Institute for International Finance is estimating that another $65 billion in foreign investment will exit the country in 2024.
That's existing investment that's going to divest. So here's the interesting thing.
Yes.
China was always a net recipient of foreign investment. A lot of Wall Street loved throwing their money in there, right? In
Yeah.
2022, China received $100 billion of investment approximately. In 2023, the net investment inflow had declined from 100 billion to 10 billion. If you see a 90% drop off in investment in a country that is completely dependent on foreign investment in order to do all these things that they're talking about, you don't have an economy. You're collapsing. And there is a problem for the whole world if the second largest economy in the world is collapsing. It's actually bad for everybody. The depression in Europe was actually caused in part by not only bad conditions that existed in Europe, but the fact that we had sort of an economic collapse in the United States brought on by Europeans not paying their war debts, and then the U.S. stock market experiencing the collapse that it did. And then we just took down the whole world. And we weren't even, we were probably the largest economy in the world at that point, but only just by a smidge, right? So it matters when big economies collapse. Because do you think a lot of Chinese companies are buying products from foreign countries right now if they're insolvent?
No, no, I don't. And I'll tell you, there's so many things that are manufactured there that we rely on. So many.
Yeah.
And that I really worry what those repercussions are going to be to America. And as you say, like to the world economy. But and also, you know, our own country has been printing money and printing money and printing money, and held interest rates at zero for years. And you know, and now we have inflation, now we have high costs, and they're looking at cutting interest rates. It's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out.
Well, and as we've seen,
And
the people running the United States are far better at trying to destroy legitimate businesses like President Trump's business than they are at actually making sure that real businesses function and thrive. and to do so without government subsidy, because nearly everything that they do requires some massive government subsidy. That's really just money taken from taxpayers. That's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is. So, changing gears, we're going to change gears. I've just posted a story. I don't know if anybody has seen this, but Wayne LaPierre, who is the CEO and the NRA CEO and executive vice president, he has announced his resignation. And so he announced his resignation effective January 31st. And this is right before the lawsuit is going to be starting against the NRA, and namely him and two others.
The trial.
The trial, yes. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes. A trial that they are saying that's against Wayne LaPierre and a couple other people. That he's been, it's alleged that LaPierre had redirected funding away from the NRA. And this has been brought by, again, the New York Attorney General, Letitia James. And if you recall, NRA has been in controversy for a number of years. And they even said, we're going to close our office and move out of New York. They've tried to file bankruptcy. They said, nope, you can't do that. There's been a lot of things going on. And I don't know about this, but I do know that he's now resigned right before they're going to be starting, I think, next week with getting the with this trial. They're not starting the trial, but they are getting the jurors ready, selecting the jurors in this case.
So
he's been at the helm for more than 3 decades.
He has. I think Charlton Heston was in charge of it at one time, and
yes.
said, out of my cold dead hand will you get my rifle from me. So here's what I think about this. I think that this is not that different from the circumstance where they're going after President Trump, because the NRA, the target isn't the NRA. The Democrats don't want to make sure that the NRA has the most pristine business practices for operating internally. The target is the Second Amendment, and they want to eliminate the Second Amendment and your right to protect yourself under that amendment. And the NRA has been standing in the way, much like President Trump has been standing in the way of them coming after us. This is what this is all about. I will not spend a second giving any credibility to any of this that they're saying about the NRA until they go after every climate boondoggle that took money and threw it away to the tune of billions, that often had cronies that were friends with the people that dispersed the money to them, until they go and conduct an extensive investigation to figure out what happened to the $90 million that went to BLM that ended up never going to any black people other than a handful of them that went out and bought lovely mansions, which is what BLM really stands for. And now apparently is being overseen by somebody that used to work for the Clinton organization. If that's a step up from the management they had, is to have somebody that ran the Clinton organization running things, then you were pretty bad. None of these people are going and investigating these folks. There's no federal cases going after these guys. So
what about Sam Bankman-Fried and all of that?
They're going soft on him now that the attention is off of him. Now that they got a conviction on some counts, apparently they're not going to put the screws on him, because you know what? He could talk. And what he can say is he's going to say, well, for some reason I was able to get dozens of little visits to the White House. And then all of a sudden, when I made donations, stuff happened. That was a political Ponzi scheme that collapsed. And they're just trying to brush that under the rug right now.
Yeah. In fact, the NRA has long alleged the case is politically motivated. And, so this could very well be more lawfare. I don't know. I don't know the inner workings there, and but I do know that I don't trust Letitia James and her perspective.
You're not
You
supposed to
know,
trust
this
somebody who said that that they target organizations and people and then go find crimes. That's not somebody you can trust.
exactly, exactly, not at all. So this is another one of those. And anyway, but we have to pay attention to this. I'm a NRA member, lifelong, or not lifelong, but a life member of the NRA. And there's a lot of good that they do. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and Letitia James is trying to have more lawfare, and it's costing the NRA.
Yeah,
This is
we gotta
lawsuits are not free.
we have to clean up our legal system and our justice system. There's a lot to clean up. A lot of damage has been done by Democrats running things the way they have, and it's because they've decided to weaponize that entire system for political purposes. I don't know. I hope we can restore it to something that isn't a political tit for tat, but that something that is like Lady Justice with the blindfold on and the scales. We need to get back to that.
Well, we do. So another article that I wanted to talk about, if you've seen today, the third round of Jeffrey Epstein documents were released today, and I've actually personally looked over the first round, didn't have a chance to look over the second round, and it's quite eye-opening what's coming out of this. Some of it we've heard has been conspiracy theory, right, Kevin? It's been, oh no, don't talk about that, right? But yet it's amazing the things that are true, and yet what is allowed to just be hidden, and
So the
we
one
were
thing,
talking about Trump earlier, and along with these Epstein files, the left media is trying to tie Trump's name right along with Bill Clinton's in this. And you know what? There is nothing, there's no there in
Trump
this
found out
case.
about Epstein and kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago when he was there.
Yes.
Case closed. Yeah. The only way that we would have found out all this information about Jeffrey Epstein sooner is if they could have implicated Jeffrey Epstein in the January 6th or in one of the impeachments of Trump.
Or tied him in any way to Trump. Truly tied him in any way to Trump.
So
Trump was
the fact that it took forever for them to get this information to come out means that there's nothing on Trump and there's a bunch of stuff on people that really matter to the Democrats. Case closed.
Yeah, there's a lot here, and it really is a child molestation, pedophilia, and it's sick and it's sad for these young women that what has happened to them.
Yeah,
it really is. I feel for them very much going through this, and no, I don't think Jeffrey Epstein killed himself by any means.
and a lot of people who don't necessarily agree with you and I politically believe the same thing. So this is it's almost laughable when you go over the facts of what took place. But Bill Barr.
Oh yeah, wait until the Haiti truth. I'll tell you what. I wish the Haiti truth would be coming out. I can't wait to see what that is. I have a feeling, but I can't wait. I can't wait to see what that is. Hey, something else that's going on. We need to talk a little bit more about some international things as well. And Germany, if you're not aware, the farmers in Germany, well, first of all, the government has put this huge tax and wanting to shut down the farmers, a green tax, right? And on the farmers in Germany. Well, they have, I don't know if you've seen any of the videos. I have. They were taking trucks full of manure and to their, be it state and city offices, and dumping it there. There's just thousands of tractors on the road, clogging up the highways, and basically shutting down Germany. And because of that, the German government backtracked on their tax hikes for the farmers, but they haven't done enough. And the farmers have said, you know what, we're going to keep this up. And because you have got to do more, you've got to get rid of it all. They only partly, they proposed some of the partly back down actually yesterday. And so I did see on social media from somebody in Portland, in Oregon, they said, when are we going to do this over in Salem?
Yeah.
When are we
We did
going to
once.
do
We had
this?
hundreds of trucks honking horns at the people in the building, and apparently we were very threatening and scary. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Honking horns.
Yeah. So anyway, there is a push by the green movement, by the World Economic Forum, you just name the agency, right, that thinks that they are in charge of the world, the unelected bureaucrats that want to be in charge of the world and that are implementing, trying to kill farms. You can talk about Bill Gates and I can't think of his name. There's several people
Schwab
that have,
and all that.
there we go. Les Schwab. That wasn't the one I was thinking of, but there's more that are trying to, for the sake of green, the greenies and the environment. No. Everything is fine. This is those regulations that are killing business, and they're trying to kill farm production. All over the world, actually, and so
they're really serious about it.
they are very serious about it. And so I'm happy to see that the German farmers were standing up to this, and kudos to them. 1,700 tractors blocked the main road leading to Brandenburg Gate. So they have planned a nationwide protest for next week. So we'll bring it to you. Let's see what happens. And, just
the fight's everywhere. And it's,
yeah, there are fights everywhere. And, something I wanted to, you probably hear a lot, some of you, I don't know about what's going on in the Middle East, but I'll tell you, we've got to pay attention to what's going on there. In the Red Sea, things are heating up. Things are escalating. Things are escalating in the Korean Peninsula. Pay attention to what's going on. And it is the feckless leaders that we have running our country that are helping this to escalate.
Yep. No, that's absolutely the case. And that's what happens when deterrence breaks down. You can have infinite number of problems. It's going to be a dangerous year as long as Joe Biden's in charge.
Well, it is. It is going to be a dangerous year. Something else that is interesting, I'm just going to read this. Have you ever heard of Shigella? So, an highly contagious infection is spread by feces, breaks out in Portland. Yes, it's the homelessness, right? As homeless crisis sparks disease common in third world countries. And so in the last month, 45 cases of Shigella has been found in Portland, bringing the total from 2023 to 218. And this is going to affect people that don't readily have running water and can wash their hands, and it's where you don't have good hygiene. And it's an intestinal infection. It can be spread through sex. It can be spread through your hands, and you will be pretty sick for a few weeks. And if you've got other health issues, if you get diarrhea for a couple of weeks, it could kill you, through dehydration and exacerbate other things. So this is running around Portland. So wash your hands, and try to stay out of Portland.
Yep.
I
Absolutely.
know you live there, but
Live outside of that area, but it means got to be careful.
yes,
Absolutely.
yeah. So I have you ever heard of the Golden Remington Awards?
No.
You know, I hadn't either, and I ran across this today, which I'm posting now here today, and posting here so that people will be able to look at this. And I have never heard of this, and it is honoring journalism fumbles in 2023. And this came from Red State. And I'll tell you, they've got CNN was the winner, right? There's just the Joe Biden honor and distinguishing reporting on frozen desserts, sponsored by Jenny's Ice Cream. So you know, there's different stories on that. The winner was CNN, where during the campaign stop, you know, there's wanting to do Joe Biden's there with a blizzard, you know, and I guess Trump said he didn't even know what a blizzard was. But you know what Donald Trump did? He bought everybody in the Dairy Queen a blizzard. You know, you don't have to know what it is. He just goes, I'm buying one. I'm buying one. And it's what's interesting is it's the so-called mainstream media like CNN, CNBC, things like that, that got most of these things. And there's the Sam Adams honor, and it was distinguished fabricated reporting sponsored by Sam Adams Lager. So, you know, there's the Republicans, Reuters declared Republicans provided no evidence to show Joe Biden was connected to Hunter's payments. It provided a picture of Marjorie Taylor Greene holding up the evidence. I mean, what a gaffe, right? So there's many things through here. Some of them I think they're funny, and they'll give you a reminder of the fake news and what is there. So this, I recommend you read some of these things. I thought it was pretty funny. But we have gone for quite a while here, Kevin. This has been a long captive audience, and just thanks so much. We got to go.
Hey, well, it was great being on with you here, Sonny. I haven't been on for a while with you, but it's the new year, and we're going to have a lot more of these. And I wish everyone a good evening and a great weekend. And we'll be back next week with another episode of the Captive Audience.
Yep. Don't forget, share the message. Good night, everybody.